the best movies of 2025.
Just in my opinion. You know, just an opinion. Hello everyone, Happy New Year! One of my favorite things about wrapping up a year is putting together a list of my favorite movies of that year. It's definitely not the most objective list, it's very personalized, but that's what makes it fun. I had a really hard time figuring out how to order this list, which ones to list as honorable mentions, which ones to put on the actual list, and what order to put them in, and that's usually a sign that there were a lot of good movies. I saw 40 total, and there was definitely a lot of movies that I wanted to put on the list, but didn't quite make it. Although I'm gonna try to keep the honorable mentions to a minimum so that this video isn't 10 hours long. Without further ado, here are the honorable mentions. Wicked for Good is a sequel that doesn't quite reach the heights of the first film, but it's still a satisfying conclusion to the Wicked story. 28 Years Later is easily my favorite installment in that franchise so far, and I'm excited to see more. Together is a horror film that made me extremely uncomfortable, which means that it did its job very well. Elio, the latest Pixar film that I really wish did better at the box office. For me, the character of Elio is one of the most relatable of the entire year. Jay Kelly was a really interesting exploration of the moral questions and sacrifices involved with being a famous artist. Roofman is a movie that I went into expecting a full-blown comedy, but what I got was a very fascinating and gripping true story. Marty Supreme is another really intense film by one of the Safdie brothers, with an award-worthy performance by Timothée Chalamet. The Long Walk was one of several really good Stephen King adaptations that came out in 2025. This was an excellent drama about the dangers of fascism. My Sunny D Addiction is a comedy short that I made in 2025. Shameless plug for my film work. Go check it out. Like I said, there are so many other films that I could have listed here, but I didn't want the video to go on for too long. Let's get to the actual top 10.
Number 10.
Sinners was a great original film with yet another award-worthy performance from Michael B. Jordan. He's playing twins this time around. If you somehow haven't seen Sinners yet, I would recommend going into the film avoiding as many spoilers as possible. Don't watch trailers, just go in blind and you will be sufficiently rewarded by the twists in the film. Ryan Coogler is an extremely talented director, and I really hope he makes more films like this rather than Marvel movies.
Number 9.
Mike Flanagan is a filmmaker that I admire so much. He made one of my favorite shows with Midnight Mass, and his work ethic is crazy. Life of Chuck is the first film by Mike Flanagan that is not a horror film, even though it is a Stephen King adaptation. Life of Chuck has a really interesting structure. It's split into 3 acts, and they're told backwards chronologically. All 3 acts are really good, but the first act was my personal favorite. It was one of the most impactful things that I've seen in 2025. It has a really stacked cast, and Mike Flanagan has always been really good at giving actors long monologue scenes. Some of my favorite monologues came from Chiwetel Ejiofor, Mark Hamill, and even Matthew Lillard has a really great monologue. The storytelling is very unique. I've never seen anything like it, and that's what really made Life of Chuck stand out. I'm not going to say too much about story elements, because I think similar to Sinners, you should go into this without knowing anything.
Number 8.
One Battle After Another is one of the films of 2025 that is getting praised the most, and for good reason. It's a movie that showcases modern politics while also being really funny at times and really suspenseful. Leonardo DiCaprio is once again fantastic. This isn't surprising, he's always great. But I think the performance that stood out to me the most was Sean Penn as Colonel Lockjaw. This is an amazing villain. He is so unbelievably disgusting, and he's one of those characters that you want to see suffer. Like, you want to watch him suffer on screen because he's such a piece of shit. One Battle After Another was a fantastic theater experience. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it yet.
Number 7.
Frankenstein is one of those stories that's been told in so many different ways. I went into this movie expecting the big green monster with the big head that we all know and love, but this film is not like that. This film is more accurate to the original book, where Frankenstein is not described that way. Guillermo del Toro follows some elements of the original story, but he absolutely makes this version his own and makes a lot of changes that I found really fascinating. I'm absolutely baffled that this movie didn't get a theatrical release. It absolutely should have. It clearly has a really big budget, and the production value is insane. and I would have loved to see this in the biggest theater possible. Oscar Isaac and Jacob Elordi are fantastic in the film as Victor Frankenstein and the monster, respectively. I love how this took a more sympathetic approach to the monster character. I would love to see more fantasy films like this, where they're given a big budget just to do whatever they want.
Number 6.
I'm a pretty skeptical person by nature, so I typically don't buy into conspiracy theories. Even still, I think conspiracy theories are really fascinating. It's a really fascinating subject, even if I don't necessarily believe in all of them. Begonia is all about that. Begonia is another film by Yorgos Lanthimos, and it's definitely more straightforward narratively than some of his other work, but it's still a pretty weird film. Jesse Plemons blows me away in everything I've seen him in. He is so good in this film, and Emma Stone is also fantastic. Big shocker. I do want to give a shout out to a breakout actor in this film. His name is Aidan Delbus, I believe. He's great in this movie, and that's especially impressive because he has to stand toe-to-toe to Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone, who are acting giants, and he holds his own in the film. Begonia is a very funny film, but it's also very suspenseful and at times terrifying. It's constantly making you question whether Jesse Plemons is right about the things that he's saying, and that really keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. Begonia was great. I have nothing but praise for it.
Number 5.
Hamnet is really interesting because it's based on a book that is a historical fiction about William Shakespeare. There's not a lot that we know about William Shakespeare's life from a historical context. We know that he had a wife named Agnes Hathaway and a child named Hamnet who died very young. So this is a film that explores how the death of Hamnet may have inspired the play Hamlet, and it's kind of filling in the gaps that history doesn't tell us. Hamnet is a very slow-paced film with a lot of long dialogue scenes. There's not a lot of musical score to the film either, so a lot of the film feels like you're just intruding on conversations that you shouldn't be witnessing. Jessie Buckley gives perhaps the best performance I've seen all year. She has to do a lot in this film. There's a lot of screaming that she has to do, and she has to do all kinds of emotions and physical things with her performance, and she's incredible. I'm so glad she won the Golden Globe, and I hope she wins the Oscar. Paul Mescal is also Oscar-worthy as William Shakespeare himself. This is a great film about how personal tragedy can affect the art that you put into the world.
Number 4.
Ari Aster is one of the most fascinating newer voices in film. He is an incredible director who I am constantly in awe of. He's made 4 feature films now, and he has inspired me considerably with his work. Each of those 4 films feels so vastly different from each other. Hereditary feels nothing like Eddington, which feels nothing like Beau is Afraid, which feels nothing like Midsommar. I think there is a common thread between these 4 films, though. Ari Aster has talked in interviews about how he suffers from anxiety, and I feel like all 4 of these films explore things that Ari Aster is afraid of. Eddington is about the chaos and the division that we've experienced in America that was exacerbated by the 2020 pandemic. It's also a Western, and it has a lot of comedy elements. It doesn't feel like it should work, and yet it does. I went into this film thinking that it was going to be an ensemble film where there wasn't a clear protagonist, but it was very clear early on that Joaquin Phoenix as the sheriff is the main character. He's a conservative guy who doesn't want to wear a mask, all those things. Pedro Pascal is in the film, Emma Stone, Austin Butler, and they don't have the biggest parts, but they're really good with the screen time that they have. Ari Aster is a very divisive filmmaker. All 4 of his films have been very, split in terms of audience reception. But Stanley Kubrick was the same way when all of his films came out. I've really loved all 4 of Ari Aster's films, which not everybody can say. I think he's great. I'm sure there will be more films that take place in 2020 that explore the chaos that we experienced in that year, but I don't think any of them will top Eddington. They're gonna have to work really hard to do so.
Number 3.
I think The Naked Gun is one of the funniest films that I've ever seen. The humor is extremely ridiculous and feels like a cartoon, but at the same time, Liam Neeson plays the role completely straight. Liam Neeson is given the most insane lines ever. Like, he says the stupidest shit, and yet he plays it completely straight, as if he's a serious character. It is the funniest thing. I made a film in 2024 called Officer Joey, and it has a very similar sense of humor and premise, and so The Naked Gun kind of feels like Officer Joey with a big budget. It's the perfect embodiment of what I find funny. Sometimes comedies have serious moments, they have drama put within them, and that's not a bad thing at all. I think a lot of comedies like that are great. Naked Gun doesn't have that, though. It's kind of like Monty Python, where their only intention is just to be funny. There's not a single serious moment in the film. They do have a few references to tech billionaires and how they can use their money and their products to influence people and, like, kind of brainwash them, but none of that is taken seriously at all. So it's like, I don't even know if that was intentional or not. I can't imagine how much effort went into this script to make it the funniest possible film, but it is so good.
Number 2.
It's not exactly a secret that I'm a Rian Johnson fan. I've talked about him many times on this channel, specifically about his Star Wars film, but I also really love the Knives Out films. I think Wake Up Dead Man is my favorite Knives Out film yet. The idea of doing a murder mystery and relating it to religion was so incredibly genius. I'm not a religious person myself, but I grew up religious and I find the topic fascinating. I really enjoy films about religion. Josh Brolin plays the character Monsignor Wicks in the film, and his character is absolutely a commentary about how narcissistic leaders can influence vulnerable people with religion. There are many real-life figures that I can apply to Monsignor Wicks that he was probably based on. I love how each Knives Out film have kind of been set in the period in which they were made. Like Knives Out, the first film, takes place in 2019, for example, and this new film takes place in 2025. They always have something to say about our current world and our current environment. Wake Up Dead Man is very much about the role that religion currently plays in our world, and how Josh O'Connor as Father Judd is the good Christian that we need more of. Similar to the very first Knives Out film, Benoit Blanc is in the movie, and he's amazing, but he's not the lead character. Father Judd is the lead. Daniel Craig has so many great moments in this film, though. I freaking love Benoit Blanc. It's like, I want to give him a hug. He's such a great freaking character. Every time I see a Knives Out film, I am completely blown away by the screenplay. Like, I have no idea how Rian Johnson is able to make these screenplays that have so many details put into them, and they all make sense in the end. Wake Up Dead Man had a limited theatrical run, and I was lucky enough to see the film when it was in theaters, which was great. That's the way that you should see these movies. I am completely in on whatever next film that Rian Johnson wants to make, whether it's a completely original film, another Knives Out film, or if it's stepping into another franchise like he did with Star Wars. The man can do anything, and I will be there.
Number 1.
Over the last 5 or 6 years or so, I've been kind of cynical about superhero movies. It's a genre that has been so oversaturated, often by movies that are bad or aggressively mediocre. It's become a conveyor belt for corporate products that are just there to make money in an overly connected universe. Seeing Superman reminded me of why I love superheroes. It reminded me that, in actuality, superhero movies are probably one of my favorite movie genres. A lot of my favorite movies of all time are superhero movies. The Incredibles, The Dark Knight, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and Unbreakable are all some of the best movies I've ever seen. Superman made me feel like those films once did. Superman has never been one of my favorite superheroes, but now, after seeing this film, I think I finally understand why the character brings joy to so many people. James Gunn brought back the feeling and the tone of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films, where there's a sense of joy and whimsy to the film, while also tackling some pretty serious themes. Superman is someone who is kind and sensitive and empathetic in a world that is telling him not to be those things. It's a positive message for people, especially men, to experience. David Cornsweet also portrays Superman as a bit of a joyful dork, and I found that endlessly relatable. It's also a film that tackles modern issues like the conflict going on between Israel and Palestine, and how billionaires like Lex Luthor can profit off of that. It's also a very clear immigrant story. James Gunn didn't just make a movie to set up the new DC universe. He wrote a story that has important things to say. It's a movie about how hope and optimism will always prevail against evil, even when things may seem bleak. There's also a lot of characters that this film balances, and they all have their moments to shine. They're all important to the story. I watched Superman 5 times. I watched it the first time when it hit theaters, and then I saw it again with my sister, who hadn't seen it yet. As soon as it hit HBO Max, I watched it a third time, and then I watched it 2 other separate times after that, with my friend and my brother, who hadn't seen it yet. That's unusual for me. Superman is unironically my favorite superhero movie since The Dark Knight. For me, it just hit every single right note, and it gets better with rewatches. Superman made me feel hopeful, and it helped me this year. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. 2025 was a pretty interesting year, and I have a lot of things I'm looking forward to in 2026. Hope you all have a great day, or night, or, afternoon, whenever you're watching this video. Bye-bye.